Welcome to episode 70 of Drew's Sports Crew. Number 70 is here, and I have a guest to join me for this episode, Jared Valleskey from Journey to a Million. Zach, Jared, and Drew's Journey to a Million, I should add. Jared, how are you doing on this Monday morning?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Myself, Drew Skyberg, joined by him, and we're going to be talking about the NBA offseason. We're going to be giving the updates. We're going to tie the draft into here because it's tough to do, just a draft episode and then just an offseason episode and not talk about the draft in the offseason episode. And so we're tying them together here. That's how we're going to roll for this episode. But first, we're going to be doing the shout out of the week, and then we're going to go into the Brewer Prediction Challenge. From now on with guests, I'm going to not include the stats of the week or on this day. We'll include those when I'm on solo duty, like last week for our 4th of July special. Let's go, Jared. Shout out of the week. I went to Victor Caratini, right? 4th of July. I was at the game. It's a walk-off 3-run home run to win it in the 10th. And boy, that was quite the game. You were watching, right?
I was at work, but I did what we were not supposed to do. I put my Raycons in, went to the cooler, and I had the game streaming. So I was able to hear it, but yeah, that's awesome. You're at it.
Yeah, it was a great game. And Keston here had himself a week, and he's right now Brewers, full disclosure, we're recording while the Brewers are facing the Pirates. So, Keston here has had himself a week. Want to include that, but we're not going to be doing a lot of the, recapping from this past week. We're looking ahead here, looking at the next 6 games for the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewer Prediction Challenge is back here for yet another week, and I have a guest. So a little competition here. Jared did win the last time we faced off in the Brewer Prediction Challenge. I will admit he did. And so looking at it, the slate here, July 11th, that is today's date. No game. We have a bye. The Brewers get a well-deserved off day, and then they go to Minnesota. So it's really more of a travel day. They have a 2-game series against the Twins, 6:40 first pitch on that Tuesday, 12:10 then on Wednesday. And then they go to San Francisco, our favorite West Coast series here. At least it's not during, the school year. But it's 8:45 first pitch, 9:15 then on Friday, 6:15 on Saturday, and then 3:05 on Sunday. So, not favorable times at all. 9:15 on Friday, and then 8:40. 9:15 games gonna get done by midnight. So, that's just those West Coast games. 6 games, Jared. I'll let you go first.
So like a week ago, the Brewers scored 19 runs, and ever since 4, 2, 5, 3, 1, 4. They've had trouble putting up runs. I'm going to say 3-3, right in the middle. I think the Giants win that series. Or no, I think they take 2 from the Giants and they take 1 from the Twins. So yeah, 3-3.
So that leaves me in a spot here, right? I can go the 4 and the 2 and the 4. The Twins, I think they can, I think they can win those. I think they win them both, actually. I'm going 4 and 2. So I'm going to take the one up.
Yeah.
I got to go up there. Look, we saw Brewers lose to the Giants. They did a 1-game kind of series earlier in the year. It was a bullpen game, really for both teams because it was kind of just like it was supposed to be an off day. Due to the lockout, they had to make up games, right? So I think the Brewers can handle Giants. Giants actually have not been playing their best baseball. They're, I believe, under 500 right now for the San Francisco Giants. So the team's been struggling as of late. Or they're 41-41, so they're right at 500. But they've been struggling, and I like the Brewers' chances against the Giants there. I think they take 2 out of 3 there. So let's go now. Brewer Prediction Challenge to here. 4 and 2 for me, and then 3 and 3 for Jared. Let's go in now. We're going to transition here right away. We're going to go right to the NBA. We haven't talked a lot of NBA recently here on the podcast. It's been busy, football, Journey Million. We've been getting out great content on there. Go listen on Fridays. And I've been doing, the interviews here on the Monday episodes. And like we had Wisconsin Glow, had those interviews. It was a great time there for Journey to Million. And then, of course, with now Tuesdays, right? Drew's baseball crew, we've been previewing the lineups, giving you the edge. And those lineups have been doing great. Jared, if you need some lineup help, I know the parlays have been going well for you, but daily fantasy, if you want to make your lineups, right?
Yeah, I won like $12 the other day, but then
There
I
you
just
go.
lost 5 yesterday. So
Yeah.
I might need your help.
Might need to tune in. Look, if you want to join the Journey to Million for Thrive Fantasy, if you want to do parlays, Thrive Fantasy is the perfect app for you. We have that. And then we also have Phantasia Sports here with Drew's Sports Crew. If you want to do daily fantasy lives, you don't want to do parlays, just go on Phantasia. It's simple, it's easy, free entries, and you can win their native Phant token. So it's crypto based there, and it shows you how much that is in US dollars. So you know how much you're really winning, right? In US dollars. And that's the great part about Phantasia. So we have that link too down below. Make sure to click on that in our description. And yeah, let's roll now here, Jared. NBA time. Let's talk about it. We're going to go to the draft first, right? So the NBA draft, when it took place, I mean, we're going to go through the picks. Not all of them here, right? There's 58 picks. I was going to make it a trivia question, Jared. I decided not to go too hard on trivia. And so that's not a question, right? 58 picks due to the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks losing out on their picks, right?
Bogdan, right?
Yep, tampering. I believe that is kind of what that counted for. But let's go into it here. Paulo Bonchero was the story first overall. He goes from Duke. It was kind of like the NFL draft in the sense where, like, there's a lot of questions of who was going number one until it felt like, 24 hours for the draft, it felt like Paulo kind of won it. I don't know, Jared, if that's kind of what you felt, but what were your thoughts with Paulo going number one?
Yeah, I mean, people like Woj aren't allowed to explicitly say like Paulo is going to go number one. So they say like this team is leaning towards picking him. Like they already know that he's going to go number one. But yeah, I think that I'm happy Paulo went instead of Chet because I thought Jabari Smith should have went number one overall, but that was just me. I just think Chet has a lot of game that he has to improve on, strength, everything. Just he's too skinny. He can get pushed around. And we saw that his first game in the league, I know he dropped like almost 20 points, but then his second game, he got bullied. So I forgot who it was, but they told him to get in the weight room because he was so small. But yeah, I like Paulo coming from Duke. The only concern I have is his juice that he has to drink during the game to avoid losing 7 pounds in sweat. But I think he'll become along nice.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Paulo here too, which I'll talk about my favorite prospect from the draft. He went number 5. But yeah, Chet Holmgren goes at 2. I like the pick. I still think he was a top 3 player, regardless of the concerns, with the size and stuff. His upside is kind of where you're drafting him, number 2, especially in a team like the Thunder is willing to take, the project that Chet Holmgren will be to be great in the NBA level. I think so. Going at number 3, then Jabari Smith, the guy you thought could win number 1. Number 4, Keegan Murray out of Iowa, and this was actually the pick. This was the first pick I really didn't like. And I know I might be a little lower on Keegan Murray than consensus, but I thought Ivy should have went ahead of him. I would have been okay with Mathurin going ahead of him. I was more thinking, as a prospect, more on my big board, let's say, in the 7 to 10 range for Murray. Jared, kind of where were you with him, watching the Big Ten? You've watched Murray a lot. What were your thoughts on him?
Well, going into the draft, I told my stepdad, who's a big Hawkeye fan, I thought he was going to go like 7, 8, 9 around there. He went 4, and there was something to do with the Kings not wanting Jayden Ivy, and they there was drama around that. But watching him in the Big Ten, Iowa won the Big Ten championship, so he kind of carried that team, but he didn't show up in the Richmond game in the playoffs. He had a few late buckets that kept him in the game, but he wasn't the player that they needed to carry him for the win. So I think that it'll come eventually. Maybe 5 or 4 is a little high, but he's got the talent, but he was also, I think, the oldest player that got drafted. So it's a risk, but I think that he will develop and he'll have at least a good 6 to 10 years or so around that range for this team.
I think, yeah, you summed it up great. I think, his kind of his floor, right? If I want to say it like that, I think he's still going to be a solid starter, for like a team, which I'm not going to say he's not Dante DiVincenzo, but look what Dante DiVincenzo's done in the NBA so far, be a solid starter, whatever. I think he can do that. I think that's his floor. I think that's like the worst you'll get out of him. I think, but then the upside, already being 21 though, keep in mind, they're like college, he was going against guys who are 19, right? 19, 20. So he kind of had that age advantage there, which kind of hurt him. And that's kind of why a lot of people, had him going in that 7 to 10 range. Even that was a part of it too, with the concern about that. But with the player comp right now, Tobias Harris is kind of what we've seen for him. What do you think about that? 6'8".
I don't know. I kind of think he can be a little more than Tobias Harris, to be honest. I mean, a couple years ago, Tobias Harris on the 76ers, it was him and Embiid and Simmons were like the big trio. People thought that they were like going to be the best team in the league. Harris is still good.
They're still like a 20-point scorer. I still think
still good.
He's still respectable.
Yeah. And I think that Murray can sustain that, maybe even exceed that, but he's a rookie. I mean, come on, we can't really compare him to an NBA player yet. I don't like the NBA comparisons because they compared Chet Holmgren to Giannis, and you can't do that. I think it was Giannis and Porzingis. I think they said
maybe as like a rookie Giannis rookie.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
but
skinny. Yeah, I don't like the comparisons because that's just disrespect to the greats. So not calling Tobias Harris a great, but
maybe you could say he is Giannis upside. That sounds, for example, which we'll talk about here. Going number 5, my favorite prospect in the draft, Jayden Ivy out of Purdue. For him, right? I mean, Sam Vecini, I gotta give him credit here from the Athletic. Gave a great player comp for his floor. Eric Bledsoe. I think that for Jayden Ivy, I think that's if things don't go right.
Yeah,
about
the
Jayden
worst.
Ivy.
Yeah.
You get Eric Bledsoe, and I think Eric Bledsoe, solid player throughout his career, right, in his prime.
Yeah,
with especially
not playoffs, but yeah,
and the Bucks even include that there. That'd still be solid, but even think upside wise, 20+ points, I think for sure. 6+ assists. I think you'd see a lot out of Ivy. I think his game really transfers well to the NBA, and I think that's kind of that's why he was the top perimeter prospect in the draft, right? Just overall, his speed, power, and even the tournament helped him out. Even though they lost, I think the tournament was something that helped out some prospects, hurt some, but I think certainly Ivy benefited. Another guy from the Big Ten, Jared. What were your thoughts from 20-year-old Jayden Ivy?
I mean, I watched him play basically all year. But I think the biggest part is what you said, is that he's going to transition great into the NBA. We saw players like Luka Garza, who came in as the Big Ten Player of the Year, and now he's a bench player on the Pistons, right? He doesn't play, So I think that having that ability to transform into an NBA player without having to work on your game too much is key. And Jayden Ivy definitely has that. You saw him at Purdue I saw him against Wisconsin, when he came down the court down by 3 and hits that clutch 3. I think that was like one of the last games of the year, but then Chucky banked in the 3, what game I'm talking about. He has that clutch factor. And I think that he's just one of the top guards in the whole draft, if not top 2, top 3. Keegan Murray's above him, he's a great player. He showed it in college, and I think 5. I thought he should have went 4, and I thought Murray should have went farther. But it's the whole thing with the whole Kings. They didn't want Ivy or whatever happened. I don't really know what happened, but yeah,
maybe they wanted a guy more NBA ready because with having Sabonis and Fox and crew, maybe that was their thought process. But yeah, we went through those 5 picks. Now we're going to talk about some of the other guys who stood out in the draft. Then we'll go to the off-season stuff so far. Johnny Davis we'll talk about at 10, 20-year-old freshman out of Wisconsin. Look, I wasn't the biggest Johnny Davis fan and still am not, but I still, have to respect his lottery, right? His lottery potential and still being the Big Ten Player of the Year, averaging 20 per game. You still got to respect. The big thing for me that is why I think he got really moved up here is not what he does really offensively. I think it's more about what he's done defensively and as a rebounder. I think that's kind of been, very underrated. And plus, just with him being a true competitor, I think that was kind of what pushed him up. And that's where I'm cool with the Wizards taking Davis at 10. I think that was kind of his range. Jared, Johnny Davis at 10, the Wizards.
Yeah, I don't know because Johnny Davis is interesting. He'll have games like he showed where he will drop 30 points. Rarely he did, but he has games like that. but at what cost? He'll go 10 for 30, against like some teams. He went 2 for 19 against like Nebraska, and we won by like 1 point. I think we lost to Nebraska to end the year because he didn't show up. Or no, he was hurt that game, so he didn't play. But I know I think it was like Northwestern or Penn State. We won by like 1 point, and he wasn't efficient. It was like 3 for 20. Like he has games like that, and that's what scares me. But I think he makes up for it, like you said, on his defense with his defense. They showed some. I watched his highlights when they put out the top 10 highlights for like each draft player. So I watched some of his highlights, and it kind of reminded me he has that explosiveness and defensive grit that a team like the Wizards will need, because they got Porzingis, they have Beal, they are going to have a solid team. I just think he might not contribute immediately. I think it might take him a few years to finally get his feet under him and become more of an efficient scorer like we know he can be. But it might take a little time, I think.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I think if we're looking at a dynasty league, you're stashing him. He's a taxi squad guy, I think, is kind of where I would put him there. Let's go to number 24, Jared. Let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks, who they took MarJon Beauchamp out of the G League Ignite 6'6" wing, who is 21 years old. And yeah, MarJon Beauchamp, I was kind of shocked. That's kind of how it is with, I feel, the Bucks. And I'll throw the Packers, Jared. I know you're a Colts fan, but both those will make selections who you'll be like, oh, I wouldn't have thought they made that selection. But then you'll look into it and you'll be like, I like the pick. And that's kind of what I feel MarJon Beauchamp brings to the table here. Big story with him, right? Defense. And he's long, he's energetic is kind of how they describe him. But just how with the Bucks, right? They're looking for length has been a thing even these past few years, right? Giannis, Middleton, these guys have their wingspans, even with Drew Holiday as well. He brings that, as kind of like a slasher as well. I'm very happy with the pick here. He's, like I said, good size for a wing. Wesley Matthews is out on the way out. I know they re-signed him, but he's at 35 now. I think this is kind of your typical, right, Bucks wing. Defense is there. The 3-point shooting is not necessarily there yet, but if the Bucks are going to draft him in the first round, I'm sure they believe they can develop that. So, Jared, what were your initial thoughts? MarJon Beauchamp becoming a Milwaukee Buck.
Yeah, you kind of hit on it. The Bucks, all they needed last year, they had the defense. Maybe not as much as they did in their championship year, and that's due to PJ Tucker. He was there. We lost him, kind of lost some grit on the team. But I think the one thing that they were missing last year with Middleton out is just a consistent shooter, and that's what I thought they were going to go with. But they kind of went more defense, like you said. I think they will develop his game. It might take a few years, but I think that he could become one of our. I don't know if he'd be a starter. Maybe if he stays with us and Wesley Matthews retires eventually, he could fill in his spot. But as of now, I think he's a good selection, like you said, after you look into it, because you see these picks and you're like, I don't know about that. But then you got to have trust in the organization. We took Giannis and everyone thought, well, who's this guy? And he turned out to be, best player in the league right now. So I think that we just have to trust the pick, like Packer fans do, like you said, with some of their questionable picks that they've had, but they've turned out. So except for Jordan Love, but it has to be that way sometimes. So I think that he'll fit into this team nicely. And I just wanted to say it was very emotional that did you see him after he got drafted? Like he cried all the way up to the top. So must have.
Cares.
They were saying he has one of the best journeys or best stories like ever. I guess he was like homeless for a little bit and believed in himself. So you'll love to see that. Just adds to the the whole experience.
Yeah, but with Beauchamp, he's a slasher, right? We kind of talked about that. 1.32 points per shot around the rim is what he's averaging, and that actually put him in the 85th percentile. So, he's that's his big story, right? And like we said, shooting's gonna come for him, and yeah, I think he's gonna still see he'll see minutes. It'll kind of be like how I'll throw Sandro Mamukelashvili, right? Last year, how he kind of saw minutes throughout the season. I think we'll see those kind of minutes out of Beauchamp. He'll get he'll make that occasional start once in a while. A bunch of guys out. He'll get bench minutes if the game's a blowout. It'll be that kind of role for his first year, and we'll see how he performs then. From there, one more first round pick I want to talk about.
Number 28.
Jared's right. Yes, it is number 28. Patrick Baldwin Jr. from the Milwaukee Panthers goes at number 28. I did an interview with him here on the podcast. If you want to go check it out, it's there, and I've advertised that, right? That interview. It's a great one. PBJ, great guest, and congrats to him going 28th to the Warriors, right? The season at Milwaukee didn't necessarily go as many had hoped, but he still lands himself in the first round. He still has, the reason he did is still look at how stacked that Warriors roster is. And so that what they did, they took the guy who has the most upside, at that pick. And I do feel PBJ still has that upside, being only 19. And he really set out the last, second half of the year really for the Milwaukee Panthers, but he still had flashes of greatness, and he is going to be a great one in the NBA. It'll be a few years. He's a project too, but PBJ going, Jared. I know you weren't necessarily the biggest Milwaukee Panther fan, but what were your thoughts? PBJ sneaking in the first round.
Yeah, it's still cool. I went to Green Bay, I know, but it's still cool to see a Wisconsin player like Milwaukee, go to the NBA. I think you nailed it. The Warriors, they just won the chip. They don't really need anything. They're still basically staying together. So I think they were able to take the risk to get him. Obviously, he hasn't played in a few years, he's played, but he's been hurt. So it's a big risk. People are still going off of his high school stats, which were amazing. But I think that if he can stay healthy, he can contribute to that team little by little, and eventually maybe become a solid role player for that team, because they don't really need much at this time. So maybe in a few years, when everyone else is getting older, he can come up and be, the next Jordan Poole or someone like that.
Yeah, shooting is his strong suit, and he went to a team that likes to shoot the long ball. So I think it's a perfect fit there for PBJ. Let's go now, Jared. Let's talk about the offseason now. In general, let's talk about the free agency. So we'll go through it here. There's trades that happen. We'll talk about them. Basically, how we're going to roll. I'm going to read a deal. We're going to say yes or no. Yes, say, yeah, we like the deal. No, we're not a fan of it. Might talk about it. But there's a lot of them. So let's go through it, Jared. First one here, Taurean Prince and the Wolves. They agreed to a 2-year, $16 million deal. I'll go yes here.
Yeah, I like that. He's a competitor.
Zubac, Vika Zubac of the Clippers, 3-year, $33 million deal there. I still will lean yes. The Zubac, he still provides the depth there for the Clippers, who are title favorite, or they're up there right now. Jared, Vegas has the number 3.
Really?
No. Yes, okay. Vegas has them just behind the Warriors and the Celtics. So,
did they? I don't know if you know this. Did they extend Isaiah Hartenstein? The backup
they
center?
did. We'll talk about that, but
okay.
Or actually, no, they did not. He went to the Knicks.
Okay, then I like it, because there were games last year where I'm a fantasy guy, so I had Zubac on my fantasy team, or like his pick, and then he didn't play it the whole second half because Hartenstein would come in and take over. So I like the extension, maybe a little overpay. 11 a year is kind of, but he's going to be their starting center, so I kind of like it.
Yeah, well, let's go through another one here. The Nets, they acquire Royce O'Neal from the Jazz for a first-round pick. Royce O'Neal, who is a solid role player, but going for a first, what were your thoughts? I thought that was kind of a steep price there.
He's a defensive player. He's always been in defense for the Jazz. A first is a lot.
Why cut Javon Carter? True. I totally see, and even Bembry. I see a lot of those guys in O'Neal. So I was kind of shocked to see.
Yeah, I think the Nets are kind of trying to get their team back together. I think they're looking for a huge deal, like you saw.
We'll talk.
For KD, it was like Cat and Edwards and a few picks they wanted. So I think that they're just trying to get anything they can, and they're just looking for something. Maybe they have an excess amount of picks, but him for a first is still kind of, I don't really like that.
Yeah, interesting there. Jalen Brunson goes to the New York Knicks, 4-year, $110 million deal. Supposedly, right? Dallas they weren't given the opportunity to kind of match the offer so who knows what's going to happen there. But after the playoffs, he deserves it. I say yes.
Yeah, well deserved. That's all I got. Yes.
Let's go through a trade here. Hawks, they acquired DeJounte Murray from the Spurs for 3 firsts, Danilo Gallinari, and a pick swap. I was surprised to see this trade done by the Spurs. I say yes. I think it's a win-win though for both sides, because if you're going to do the trade for Murray, you better be getting 3 firsts at least. They did that, so I'm content with it.
Yeah, Spurs aren't in a win now mode, so they got some future picks, and the Hawks are looking to do something now. So yeah, I think it's a win for both sides.
Murray and Young, I think that's going to be a nice duo. Both guys though, ball dominant players is the concern. Both of them are high assist guys, but both thrive with the ball in their hands. So, I'm interested to see how that pans out. Next one here, Malik Monk, Kings, 2-year, $19 million deal. A role guy there, leaves the Lakers. I'll say yes. I'll go with it.
I think yes as well. I don't know if anyone wanted to be on the Lakers last year. I think he's trying to get away from it, or maybe LeBron didn't want him there anymore. I don't know, but I think, I like it.
PJ Tucker, 76ers, 3-year, $33 million. This was one of the bigger, deals in terms of controversy, right? Jimmy Butler is not too pleased to see this go down, but I'll say yes. He performed well last year too. He locked himself into a long-term deal here, so congrats to him. Yeah, 76ers got their guy. Next one, Oladipo Heat, 1-year, $11 million deal. I'm fine with that. Oladipo was limited last year, right? But gets an opportunity here, and I think he's gonna make the most of it again in Miami.
I think he deserves a little more, to be honest. He's been, he's getting old, I think, but he's been a great player for the Pacers for a while. Maybe he's past his prime at this point, but yeah, I think it's well deserved.
Isaiah Hartenstein, Jared, New York Knicks, 2-year, $60 million deal.
16?
Mitchell Robinson,
okay.
Right. There's other guys there. Robinson, there's right. So interesting. Randall, throw him in there. So I wonder how that's gonna affect playing time there. Keep in mind, Jared, our daily fantasy lineups, that he might be stealing minutes now from Robinson if you're taking him.
Fouls keep Robinson off the court. He had a game where he had 3 fouls in 2 minutes and he sat the rest of the game. So I don't take him anymore.
Good call. Yeah. DeAndre Jordan, Nuggets, agree to a deal here. I'm fine with it. That deal, not much there. Bradley Beal, Wizards, agree to a 5-year, $251 million deal. Full no trade clause. He is the 10th player ever to receive that. I'm shocked they gave him that, first off. Second off, I'm fine with it. This might be one of mine that I'm closer to saying no, just based on not a fan of, Beal's a great player and all, but 5-year, $251 deal. I just feel like this is a deal that sets your team back a few years, but
yeah,
you gotta pay the man.
It's just weird because he was like the leading scorer a couple years ago, or like even was it last year? I think it was 2 years ago. He was averaging like 20 something points a game, like 28 almost. So like he was the leading scorer in the league, and their team didn't do anything. So I don't know if he's the guy of the future. They're kind of all in on him, and that
they gave him all the power in that contract.
Yeah,
he basically runs the deal.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one here. Javon Carter to the Bucks, 2-year deal. He was on him. Resigns, I should say. I'm a fan of it. That's a big yes for me.
If he gets minutes like he should, because he's a great defender.
Damian Jones, Lakers, 2-year deal. Amir Coffey, Clippers, agree to a 3-year, $11 million deal. I think there's great value there. Solid. He was a solid role player when, guys like Kawhi were out, injuries, COVID, right? Amir Coffey, fan of him for 3-year, $11 million, Jared.
Me too. Yeah, that's your guy. You love him, Amir Coffey.
Yeah, gotta love him. Bobby Portis, 4-year, $49 million deal. Bobby Portis gets paid, and then he stays with the right team. So that's a big yes, too, for me.
I think he was only supposed to make like 4.9, and now he's making like 49. So, yeah, that's good for him. The Bucks got him for a few years now, so that'll be good.
Nikola Jokic, 5-year, $264 million deal.
Record-breaking.
All deserved, right? Back-to-back MVP. That's just a yes. We'll move on. Daniel House, 76ers, 2-year, $8.5 million deal. See, the 76ers have been just signing a bunch of role players, right? So maybe they're going. Are they going for KD?
They could be. It's hard because Embiid and Harden's going to resign there, or did he? No, he didn't yet, right?
Harden did.
He did
Pay
resign.
cut. He did take a pay cut.
That's right. He declined his option and then took less. So I think that they're just gonna stick with their team the way they have it, or they're gonna trade some of those role players and picks. And I don't know if the Nets will take that for KD, but
Yeah,
that would be a stacked team with Harden, KD, and Embiid. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go read through some of the bigger notable ones here. Devin Booker, 4-year, $214 million. Right. Anthony Simons, 4-year, $100 million deal. Look, that might be an overpay there. I know Simons, right? He performed well. I mean, he performed well when Lillard was out, but to throw $25 million at a year at a guy like Simons, that's a no for me.
I got to agree with you on that.
Wes Matthews returns to the Bucks on a deal. That's a yes there. Fan of him. Joe Ingles to the Bucks. I like that when he's all recovered from his injury.
I think they said he'll play half the season or so after the.
And you'll take that. You will take that. It's kind of like a trade deadline acquisition, right? You get him the second half of the year. Patty Mills, Nets 2-year, $14.5 million. I'm fine with it. Nets, they're going out. Got to re-sign Mills there. Marvin Bagley III, Pistons, 3-year, $37. I am not a fan here. Well, it hurts Isaiah Stewart, right? I mean, it seemed like they were going to develop him. It's that, but then they go to Marvin Bagley, who has not necessarily lived up to the hype at all in the NBA. He certainly need to change the scenery, but
they just got him last year from the Kings in that 3-way trade, I think, at the deadline. So I guess they're going to stick with him and try to develop him. Isaiah Stewart might not.
He's going to take a back seat again.
Yeah.
JaVale McGee, 3-year, $20 million to the Mavericks. I mean, his time with the Suns actually really helped him out there in this stretch last year.
Yeah.
Really helped him out there. Lou Dort, 5-year, $87.5 million. Yes, I'm all over this one. They locked down a young stud in Lou Dort. So good for them there. Karl Anthony Towns, 4-year, $231 million deal. Right? He's another one of those guys. That's kind of what they're going for these days, the stars. So you pay Cat.
You have
John Morant, 5-year, $231. It just baffles me sometimes how big these deals are. So
I mean, if you don't pay him, someone else will offer him a lot more.
Yeah.
So
It's just as crazy. John Wall to the Clippers, 1-year, or it's a 2-year, $13 million deal. My bad. Think about how much Wall was making last year with Houston, and now he goes here.
I think he was like the top 5 most paid players in the league, and he wasn't playing.
In the top 5. Yep. Let's go through some more here. The Timberwolves acquire Rudy Gobert. Here's a big story from the Jazz for Malik Beasley. Or was it Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and 4 firsts? Is what that one was. Look, I mean, you give up a lot of your future, but you have a nice salary dump here in guys like Beasley, Beverly, right? So in some aspects, that it was a nice trade for the Wolves, but 4 firsts. And I mean, Walker Kessler was their first this year too, if I'm not mistaken. So it's 5 firsts.
5 firsts.
Is that the right price there for?
No. Patrick Beverley, starter, key player, defense, just everything. Like he brings it. He's a dog, as PJ Tucker calls it. All for Rudy Gobert. Okay, the Timberwolves are going to be good. They have Gobert, they have Cat, they have Edwards. They're going to be a solid team. But their future, if one of these people don't play out, one of these players, like, what do they have?
Gobert's 30 already. I'll just add.
Exactly. They gave up literally 5 first-round picks all the way from like now till 2029, I think it said, something like that. I don't know why, like Jared Vanderbilt, solid player. Like he can shoot. He's a great player. Beasley, the only reason I think they did it, like normally when teams in the playoffs, they shorten their roster to like 8 to 9 or so. And the Timberwolves were playing, McDaniels, Vanderbilt, Beasley. They were getting deep into their bench. Taurean Prince, Naz Reid, like they were all playing, which might have been a reason. Like we need to get rid of some of the salary and some of these players, and actually go make a run for it these next few years. And I think that's what they did. So they're going to shorten their rotation to 8, 9 players, and I think they'll be solid these next few years, but not at that price. That's way too much for Gobert.
And I don't know if I like Cat and Gobert playing together. I'm not a fan of that combination. Look, Cat is at his best when, I mean, at back to basket. I mean, he's a back to basket center. I still know, he's still a solid shooter, but really you want arguably your best player on your team out on the 3-point line, while his best asset is his ability to score in the paint, mid range. Right? I don't see the value in that, and unless they have some way they're going to use Gobert and him, but I'll need to see it.
He is a great shooter, but like you said, he's not going to contribute to the team in the best way if he's just shooting threes. That's what Edwards is there for. That's, they got other players for that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see them work together, but it's something that we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah. 2 other trades. These I liked here. Celtics getting Malcolm Brogdon from the Pacers for 2023 first, Daniel Tice and Aaron Nesmith. What were your thoughts on this trade? I liked it for the Celtics.
Yeah. I mean, I think Marcus Smart tweeted like right before, or like a few days before, we don't need a true point guard. I don't know why, but then like 2 days later they get one. So he was great on the Bucks, great on the Pacers, and now he's going to the Celtics. I still like the guy.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a great player. I think Marcus Smart's minutes might get cut a little, but do you think Brogdon starts then over? I mean, do you think all 4 of them start?
Yeah,
you think so? And
I
then
think it's Smart. Well, I think it's gonna be Smart,
Rob Williams.
Yeah, Smart, Brown, Tatum, Brogdon.
Yep.
And then Robert Williams. I think this team, this team might be my favorite for number 1 in the East next year. I just think top to bottom, the roster is looking great.
And they proved it last year. So
yeah. But given that first, my point is that first is going to be in the mid to late 20s, in my opinion. So
yeah,
really, I think it was a great trade there for the Celtics. Kevon Looney to the Warriors, 3-year, $25.5 million deal. Playoffs, that final series got him probably an extra couple million there.
His offensive rebounds is unreal. Like, what do you have? Like 9 offensive rebounds, 20-something rebound. Like
in the finals, he was
great player.
Off. Kings acquire Kevin Huerter from the Hawks for Justin Holiday, Mo Harkless, and a future first. So Kevin Huerter brings in a future first round pick. Was the story there. I know they got other guys. I just that was a little surprising. I know Kevin Huerter is a solid, scorer, right? I mean, he had some moments even against the Bucks if we go back 2 years. But little shocked to see that go through. Warriors, Dante DiVincenzo, 2-year, $9.3 million deal. I like this for DiVincenzo's sake, right? I mean, he can prove himself. He can be in a very friendly offense too. So maybe get some nice numbers.
If he wouldn't have gotten hurt on the Bucks, I mean, they could have won that. He could have gotten. Oh yeah, kind of hurt him a lot.
I even looking last year when he had that dominant stretch early, before he got hurt, like you said. Yeah. I was thinking he was gonna, when he goes free agency, he was getting $10 to $20 million a year.
Yeah, me too.
That range, starter money, I guess if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Who else here? Zion Williamson, 5-year, $193 million deal with incentives up to $231 million. Got to include that there. Hopefully we can see some Zion. It'll be great for basketball. Darius Garland, he commits to the Cleveland Cavaliers, basically a 5-year, $193 million deal. Love that there for Garland and the Cavs. I mean, they trust him is what that deal shows. Serge Ibaka to the Bucks on a 1-year deal.
Do not like that.
No, you don't. He's gonna eat up minutes, Jared.
Yeah,
I don't know.
My brother and I think the same. We watch him play. He's not efficient. He's really not. I'd much rather have Boogie Cousins. I know we're past that already, but
what if it was Ibaka, 3 years ago, even? Now
Ibaka,
we're talking.
Serge Ibaka is great, but now he's just
steep decline.
He's just eating up minutes and not doing much in those minutes, basically.
And one here I like for the Lakers and Darvin Ham, right? Of course, we gotta include Darvin Ham there. Was Thomas Bryant from the, he had some great minutes with the Wizards, got hurt. He's gonna be great there though with them. James Harden, we talked about, took a pay cut, right? $15 million, I believe, there because he has a player option still in this new deal. Damian Lillard, 2-year, $120 million extension. Only $60 million a year right there, Jared.
And they're paying Anthony, their backup
Anthony
point guard,
Simons, 4-year.
$25 a year. That's
Well, now I think they're gonna start them together because that's why they
I
traded.
think they
McCollum.
will. They have to.
They
Yeah.
have to. Yeah, if they're paying that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that kind of wraps up the moves we wanted to talk about. Let's go to our little trivia thing. It's over under. Of course, we have Jared here. That's how we roll. So I have the odds here to win the NBA title. Basically, I'm going to give you two teams. I need you to tell me. I need you to tell me which team has better odds than the other to win. If that makes sense.
Sounds good.
So here we go. Question 1. Who has better odds here? The Utah Jazz or the Portland Trailblazers?
Starting me off with a hard one. This is as of now, right? So it's not
as of now. Who is the best odds?
If Mitchell leaves or anything, I'm gonna say the Trailblazers.
The Trailblazers do have better odds.
Nice.
Plus 7,500 versus plus 10,000. Next one here. 1-for-1 for Jared. We're gonna go. Okay. The Houston Rockets or the Indiana Pacers.
Ooh. Bottom teams here. Oh, that's a hard one. Might get this wrong. I want to say the Rockets just because they have so much talent and they're just young. Pacers got Halliburton. Unpopular. I'm gonna go Rockets.
Nope, it is the Pacers. So if I'm reading this right, hold on, I gotta read. There's a lot of zeros here. I think it's 100,000.
Yeah,
plus 100,000. Rockets are plus 200,000.
Okay, both not coming close next year.
Yeah. Next one here is. Let's go to question 3. Okay. The New York Knicks or the Charlotte Hornets. Which one has better odds?
It's got to be the Knicks.
The Hornets have better odds. Plus
That's
12,000 versus plus 15,000. So
That's tough.
Hornets have the better odds there. We're going to go to the top dogs here.
Yeah, that's going to be better.
Who's got better odds? The Phoenix Suns or the Milwaukee Bucks?
Whoa. They don't like the Bucks. I'm going to say the Suns.
Yep. The Suns do plus 600 versus plus 650.
Yeah.
A little surprising there. Last one here. The Denver Nuggets or the Memphis Grizzlies. Which team has the better odds?
Ooh. Nuggets back-to-back MVP and Jokic. Grizzlies conference finals. I think the Grizzlies have proven more, but yeah. Oh, because Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are going to be back. Nuggets.
The Nuggets, correct. 3 of 5. That was impressive there. I was using DraftKings Sportsbook there for the NBA title odds. Full disclosure, Celtics plus 550 at the top. And then tied at the bottom with like I said, plus 200,000. The Rockets and Magic. So there you go. There is your trivia, and that'll wrap up episode 70 here. Social media, you know where to find us here, Drew Sports Crew on the Instagram and Twitter, Drew's Sports Crew, then on the Facebook and YouTube. So, right, we have Journey to Million. We have an episode coming out Friday. We're previewing the quarterback position, and we'll be looking through that. It'll be myself, Jared will be joining us, Zach, too, who is not here, and Dustin Burgundy will be our guest, and we'll be talking all about the quarterback position. We'll be ranking our cornerbacks. It'll be a lot of fun. And, yeah, that'll wrap it up here, Jared. You got anything else?
Oh, it was fun. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, of course. It was a blast. And, yeah, thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew's Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.